My beloved child, wait, just pause here for a moment, because something quiet, yet deeply important, is unfolding around you, and you may not have noticed it yet. There has been a shift, not loud, not dramatic, but gentle, almost like a whisper brushing past your thoughts. And somehow, you felt it, didn't you? That slight hesitation when you think about them, that subtle weight in your chest that wasn't there before, that moment where your heart asked a question your mind tried to ignore. Why does something feel different now? Let that question sit with you for a second, don't rush past it. Because this isn't confusion, it's awareness beginning to rise. And the truth is, you're not being pulled away randomly, you're being guided. Look closer. There were moments, small ones, that didn't make sense at first. A conversation that felt slightly off, a silence that lasted a little too long, a reaction that didn't match the situation. You brushed it aside, thinking maybe it was nothing, maybe you were overthinking, maybe everything was still okay. But deep down, something in you stayed alert. Not anxious, just aware. And that awareness didn't come from fear, it came from something higher, something that sees what you cannot fully see yet. Listen carefully now, because this is where it begins to unfold. There are connections in your life that are meant to elevate you, to bring clarity, peace, and quiet strength. And then, there are connections that slowly, almost invisibly, begin to drain that clarity, not all at once, but little by little. You don't always notice it immediately. It feels normal at first, familiar even. But over time, your energy shifts. Your thoughts become heavier. Your peace feels interrupted, not destroyed, just disturbed. And you start asking yourself, why? Why do I feel this way after talking to them? Why does something feel slightly unsettled, even when everything seems fine on the surface? Pause right there, because that question is not random. That question is a signal. You are being shown something, not forced, not pushed, just gently revealed. And here's the part many people miss. Guidance doesn't always come as a clear voice telling you what to do. Sometimes, it comes as a feeling you can't explain. Sometimes, it comes as a distance that begins to grow, even when you didn't choose it. Sometimes, it comes as a truth that slowly reveals itself, piece by piece, until you can no longer ignore it. And you've reached that point, haven't you? Where ignoring it feels harder than facing it. Stay with this, don't look away yet. Because what's happening is not about losing someone, it's about understanding something. There is a reason why certain interactions no longer feel the same. There is a reason why your energy reacts differently now. There is a reason why, even in moments of silence, your heart feels like it's trying to tell you something important. And that reason is not meant to hurt you. It's meant to protect you. But protection doesn't always feel obvious at first. Sometimes it feels like confusion. Sometimes it feels like distance. Sometimes it feels like a quiet unfolding, where things don't collapse, they simply change. And you're in that space right now. That between space, where nothing has fully ended, but something is clearly shifting. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed how you've been seeing things more clearly lately? Not just about them, but about yourself too. You're starting to recognize what you truly need, what you truly deserve, and what no longer aligns with the person you are becoming. And that realization, it didn't come overnight. It built slowly, through experiences, through moments, through quiet observations that stayed with you. And now, it's all coming together. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The guidance you're receiving isn't loud because it trusts you. It trusts your awareness. It trusts your ability to notice the subtle signs, the small shifts, the quiet truths that reveal themselves when you slow down and really look. So instead of something dramatic happening, you're simply being shown. Shown through patterns. Shown through feelings. Shown through the way your energy responds. And the more you notice, the clearer it becomes. But wait, don't jump ahead. Because there's still something deeper you need to see. This isn't just about them. It's about what staying connected to the wrong energy does over time. It doesn't break you suddenly. It slowly moves you away from your own clarity. It makes you question yourself, doubt your instincts, ignore your inner voice. And the moment you start ignoring your inner voice, you begin to drift away from your true path. But that's not what's happening here. You're not drifting. You're waking up. That's why things feel different. That's why you can't go back to seeing things the same way. Because once awareness begins, it doesn't disappear. It grows. And right now, it's growing inside you. You might feel a slight pull, like something is guiding you in a direction you didn't expect. Not forcing, just nudging. And you might wonder, why now? Why this moment? Why this person? Stay with that thought, because the answer is closer than you think. Timing is never random. There are moments in your life where you are ready to see what you couldn't see before. Not because the situation changed, but because you did. You've grown. Your perspective has shifted. Your awareness has deepened. And now, you can see beyond the surface. That's why what once felt normal, now feels different. That's why what once felt comfortable, now feels slightly out of place. And that's not a mistake. It's alignment. You are aligning with something higher, something clearer, something more true to who you are becoming. And anything that doesn't match that alignment begins to feel distant, not because it's bad, but because it's no longer meant for where you're going. Let that sink in. This isn't about blame. It's about clarity. This isn't about loss. It's about direction. And right now, you're being gently directed. But here's the part most people rush past. You don't have to act immediately. You don't have to make a sudden decision. All you need to do is stay aware. Notice. Observe. Feel. Because the more you stay present with what you're experiencing, the more everything will reveal itself naturally. And when it does, you won't feel confused anymore. You won't feel uncertain. You'll just know. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, clearly. And that kind of knowing is something you can trust. So don't skip this moment. Don't rush ahead looking for answers. Because something important is already unfolding within you, right now, in this very moment. And if you stay just a little longer, you'll begin to see the truth, not as something shocking, but as something that finally makes sense. But there's still one piece you haven't fully seen yet. And when it reveals itself, everything you've been feeling will connect in a way you didn't expect, and suddenly, the path ahead will look completely different. Just wait, it's closer than you think. There is something subtle happening beneath the surface, something so quiet that it doesn't demand your attention, yet somehow, it keeps returning to your thoughts, as if it refuses to be ignored. And maybe you've tried to explain it away. Maybe you told yourself, it's nothing, just a phase, things will go back to how they were. But pause for a second, and really feel that. Have they gone back? Or have they slowly continued to change? Because this is where clarity begins to sharpen. Not all distance is created by conflict. Sometimes, it's created by truth quietly stepping forward. And the truth doesn't always arrive with loud answers, it arrives with patterns. Look at the patterns. Not just what they say, but how it feels when they say it. Not just what they do, but how it leaves you afterward. There's a difference between connection and attachment that only looks like connection. And you've started to feel that difference. That's why something inside you pauses now, even during normal conversations. That's why you notice things you didn't notice before. That's why your energy doesn't respond the same way anymore. And here's the part that might surprise you. This isn't happening because something suddenly went wrong. It's happening because something within you has become right. Stay with that, don't let your mind rush past it. You are not losing clarity, you are gaining it. And clarity changes everything. It changes how you see people. It changes how you interpret their actions. It changes what you're willing to accept, and what you quietly step away from. And the moment clarity arrives, some connections naturally begin to fade, not with conflict, but with understanding. But wait, there's something deeper here. Because this isn't just about what you're seeing. It's about what you're finally allowing yourself to feel. For a long time, you gave more than you noticed. You adjusted, you understood, you stayed patient, even when something felt slightly off. Not because you were unaware, but because you believed things would align. And that belief, it came from a good place. But now, something has shifted. You're no longer ignoring what your heart has been gently trying to show you. You're listening. Even if it feels uncertain, even if it feels unfamiliar, you're listening. And that changes the entire direction of your path. Because once you begin to listen to that inner awareness, you can't unknow what you feel. And suddenly, things start connecting. Moments that once felt small, now carry meaning. Words that once seemed normal, now feel different. Silences that once felt comfortable, now feel revealing. And you begin to understand something important. Not everything that stays in your life is meant to grow with you. Let that settle for a moment. Because this realization doesn't come from negativity, it comes from alignment. You are moving forward. And not everyone is meant to move at the same pace, or in the same direction. That doesn't make them wrong. And it doesn't make you wrong either. It simply means, your path is becoming clearer. But here's where many people hesitate. They confuse guidance with loss. They think, why am I being pulled away, when nothing seems completely broken? And the answer is quiet, but powerful. Because sometimes, you are guided away before things break, before confusion deepens, before your energy becomes too drained to notice. This is protection in its most gentle form. Not sudden, not forceful, just early. Early enough for you to choose clarity, before you are forced into it. And you're standing right at that moment. That quiet turning point, where nothing has ended, but everything is being revealed. Stay here, just a little longer. Because there's something else you've been feeling, something you haven't fully acknowledged yet. A slight sense of relief, mixed with uncertainty. Have you noticed that? That strange calm that appears when you imagine stepping back, even just a little. It's subtle, but it's there. And that calm, it matters. Because it's showing you what alignment feels like. Not dramatic happiness, not overwhelming emotion, just peace. And peace doesn't come from confusion. It comes from truth. So if stepping back, even in thought, brings a sense of calm, what does that tell you? Let that question stay with you. Don't answer it too quickly. Because the answer isn't something you force. It's something that becomes clear, the more you stay honest with yourself. And right now, you are becoming more honest than ever before. Not with words, but with awareness. And that awareness is guiding you. Not pushing, not rushing, just gently, consistently, guiding. But here's the moment that changes everything. You don't need proof to trust what you feel. You don't need something dramatic to confirm it. You don't need a final event to justify your clarity. Because the truth is, what you feel is already enough. And once you understand that, you stop waiting for something external to tell you what you already know internally. That's when everything shifts. Because now, your decisions come from clarity, not confusion. Your direction comes from awareness, not doubt. And your energy begins to align with what truly supports you. But wait, there's still one layer you haven't fully seen yet. And it's not about them, it's about you. About who you are becoming through this experience. Because this moment, this quiet realization, it's shaping something inside you. It's strengthening your ability to recognize truth. It's deepening your connection with your own inner voice. And most importantly, it's preparing you for something that requires a clearer version of you. You may not see it yet, but you will. And when you do, you'll understand why this shift had to happen now. Not later, not after more confusion, but right here, in this exact moment. So don't rush this process. Don't try to force an outcome. Just stay present with what you're beginning to see, what you're beginning to feel, because something important is still unfolding. And the next piece, it will reveal not just why you're being guided away, but what you're being guided toward, and that changes everything in a way you didn't expect. There is a moment, almost invisible, where everything inside you becomes still, not because nothing is happening, but because something finally makes sense. And you may have felt it already. That quiet pause, where your thoughts slow down, your emotions settle, and instead of confusion, there's a gentle clarity rising, like light entering a space that used to feel uncertain. Stay with that feeling, because this is not the end of something. This is the beginning of understanding. For so long, you were trying to figure things out from the outside, analyzing words, interpreting actions, searching for signs in what they were doing. But now, something has shifted inward. You're no longer searching for answers out there. You're beginning to recognize them within yourself. And that changes everything. Because when clarity comes from within, it doesn't shake. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't disappear when things seem normal again. It stays steady, calm, certain. But here's the part that might surprise you. This clarity isn't asking you to walk away with force. It's simply showing you what naturally no longer fits. There's no urgency in it, no pressure, just truth. And truth has a quiet strength. It doesn't argue. It doesn't rush. It just remains. Let me ask you something simple, but important. When you think about moving forward, truly forward, does this connection feel like it belongs in that path? Don't answer quickly. Feel it. Because your first instinct, that subtle inner response, is where the answer lives. Not in overthinking, not in doubt, but in that immediate, quiet knowing. And you felt something just now, didn't you? Even if it was small. Even if it was just a slight shift in your chest. That's it. That's the truth beginning to surface. And once you feel it, you can't pretend it's not there. But don't worry, you're not being asked to make everything clear all at once. This isn't about cutting off, ending, or deciding in a single moment. This is about allowing things to unfold, naturally, gently, in alignment with what you now understand. Because real guidance doesn't create chaos. It creates clarity over time. And that's exactly what's happening here. You're not being pushed. You're being prepared. Prepared to step into something that requires a different energy, a clearer mind, a more grounded heart. And here's where everything begins to connect. The reason you're being guided away is not just because something doesn't align. It's because something else does. Pause right there. Let that settle. There is something ahead of you, something that matches your energy more closely, something that supports your growth instead of quietly slowing it down. But you can't fully step into that while holding on to what no longer fits. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because your energy can't be in two different directions at once. And right now, your direction is becoming clearer. You've outgrown something, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, undeniable way. Like a space that once felt comfortable, but now feels slightly too small. Like a conversation that once flowed easily, but now feels slightly out of rhythm. Like a connection that once felt natural, but now feels like it requires effort to maintain. And that's not failure, that's growth. But growth always comes with a moment like this. A moment where you realize you're no longer who you used to be, and because of that, not everything can stay the same. Stay here for a second, don't rush past this realization, because this is where many people turn back. They ignore the clarity, they convince themselves things are fine. They stay in what feels familiar, even when it no longer feels aligned. But you're not doing that. You're staying present. You're noticing. You're allowing yourself to see what's real, even if it feels unfamiliar. And that takes strength. Quiet strength, but real. Now listen carefully, because this is where everything softens. You don't need to carry any heaviness from this. You don't need to blame. You don't need to hold on to questions that don't have clear answers. Because not everything ends with explanation. Some things simply become clear. And clarity is enough. So instead of asking, "Why did this happen?" try feeling this instead. What is this showing me about where I'm going? Because that question opens a completely different door. A door that leads forward, not backward. And forward is where your energy is already moving. You may not see the full picture yet, but you're beginning to feel the direction. And that feeling, it's guiding you more accurately than anything else. So don't skip this part of your journey. Don't rush to conclusions. Don't force decisions before they feel natural. Just stay aligned with what you're starting to understand. Because something important is already changing within you. Something that will shape the way you connect, the way you choose, the way you move forward from here. And as this clarity continues to deepen, you'll notice something unexpected. The attachment will begin to loosen, not suddenly, but gently. The need to figure everything out will fade, and in its place, there will be peace. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything finally makes sense. And when that peace arrives, you won't feel like you're losing anything. You'll feel like you're returning to yourself. But wait, there's still one final layer you haven't fully seen yet. And it's not about what you're leaving behind. It's about the exact moment you realize you were never meant to settle in the first place. And when that realization becomes clear, the path ahead will open in a way that feels almost effortless. Just stay with this. You're closer than you think. There comes a point, so quiet, so gentle, that you almost miss it, where you stop asking questions, not because you've given up, but because something inside you has already understood. And this moment, it's arriving now. Not loudly, not dramatically, but like a calm settling over your thoughts, like everything that once felt tangled, slowly beginning to straighten on its own. You might notice it in the way you think about them now. There's less urgency, less need to analyze, less weight attached to every word, every action. And in that space, something unexpected appears. Peace. Not the kind that comes from everything being perfect, but the kind that comes from finally seeing clearly. Stay with that feeling, don't move away from it, because this is where the final layer begins to reveal itself. You see, it was never just about being guided away from someone. It was about being guided back to yourself. Pause there. Let that settle deeply. For a long time, parts of you adjusted, softened, waited, tried to understand, even when something didn't fully resonate. Not because you were wrong, but because you were open, patient, willing to see the good. And that's something rare. But now, something within you has shifted. You're no longer adjusting away from yourself. You're returning to yourself. And that changes everything. Because when you are aligned with who you truly are, you don't need to force anything to stay. What belongs, stays naturally. What doesn't, gently fades. And this connection, it's beginning to show you where that line exists. Not through conflict, but through clarity. And clarity is a gift, even when it feels unfamiliar at first. Now here's something important. Something you may not have fully realized yet. You didn't lose anything here. You discovered something. You discovered your awareness. You discovered your boundaries, not as walls, but as understanding. You discovered that your energy, your peace, your direction, matters more than holding on to something that no longer aligns. And that discovery, it changes the way you move forward. Because now, you don't chase clarity. You recognize it. You don't ignore your inner voice. You trust it. And you don't stay where things feel uncertain. You gently step toward what feels right. But wait, feel this for a second. Do you notice how lighter everything feels, even just imagining that? That's not accidental. That's alignment. That's what it feels like when you're no longer resisting what you already know. And you're not forcing anything to end. You're simply allowing what no longer fits to fall away on its own. And that kind of release, it's peaceful, it's quiet, it doesn't leave you empty. It creates space. Space for something that matches your energy more fully, more honestly, more completely. Because here's the truth you've been slowly uncovering. You were never meant to settle for a connection that makes you question your own clarity. You were never meant to stay in something that feels slightly out of alignment, even if it looks fine on the surface. You were always meant to move in the direction of truth, even when it unfolds slowly. And that's exactly what you're doing. Even now, even in this moment, you're moving forward, not by force, but by awareness. And awareness is the most powerful guide you have. You don't need a final conversation to validate this. You don't need a dramatic ending to make it real. You don't need closure in the way you once thought you did. Because closure has already begun within you. In the way you see things now. In the way you feel more grounded, more certain, even if you can't explain it fully yet. And that kind of closure, it's deeper than words. It's something you carry, not something you search for. So as you stand here, in this quiet moment of understanding, notice how far you've come. From uncertainty, to awareness. From questioning, to clarity. From holding on, to gently letting go. Not because you had to, but because you're ready. And readiness doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like calm. It feels like knowing, without needing to prove it. And that's where you are now. But there's one last thing, something soft, yet powerful, that completes this journey. It's this. You are not being left with less. You are being aligned with more. More clarity, more peace, more connection that truly reflects who you are becoming. And when that arrives, you won't have to question it. You won't have to analyze it. You'll feel it, instantly, quietly, deeply, because it will match you, not the version of you from before, but the version of you that has just awakened through this entire experience. So don't look back with doubt. Look forward, with quiet certainty, because what you've just understood, it wasn't random. It was guidance, gentle, patient, and always leading you, exactly where you are meant to be. And now, you're finally ready to follow it.